Hey, doctors.
George Allen here. Good day, doctors.
Hey, this is Governor Chris Christie from New Jersey. Good day, doctors.
Go! You're watching Dr. Politics.
Welcome, everyone. It is May 24th, 2024. Welcome. We were off last week because of the Maryland State GOP convention, and we're back. It was a lot of fun, as always. Not as much fun as we had. We were in Ocean City, but Ocean City. It's like, what could be better? Except Rocky Gap could be better. Or as good as Ocean City. But yeah, we were in lovely Hagerstown, Maryland. And it was a nice convention. We elected our at-large delegates to the convention, and
I think Hagerstown, Ocean City sounds like it'd be more fun.
It was more fun, yeah. Only saving grace about Haver Hall was right across the street was Neil Peart's favorite pizza place, Brothers Pizza. Really good pizza there.
Yeah.
We had a pizza club meeting there in the middle of the convention. And our fearless leader, Garrett Zahner, gives it 2 thumbs up. But it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of cool stuff going on. And then this week's been another bad week for Joe Biden. But what's new? Frankly, looks like let's start with the big thing. Michael Avenatti's meltdown on the stands this week, admitting to stealing $60,000 from the Trump organization.
Was it Cohen?
Cohen, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, Cohen, not Avenatti. Cohen.
Yeah, one liar to another.
Yeah, I know Avenatti, Cohen. It's like they're all the same. It's like some.
Yeah, Cohen's like a real sleaze. It's horrible person.
And then he did a pitch for a reality show called The Fixer. He was going to bring his years and connections and all that to regular people to fix their problems.
Yeah, I mean, he's turned his, if you want to call it misfortune or whatever, into, making a lot of money doing other things, kind of capitalizing on all the stuff that he's done.
Yeah.
So he's not, he hasn't been hurt financially in that sense in the long run. I mean, I think he's more than recovered what he lost from going to prison and all these other things. But, you look at that trial. I mean, the prosecution relying on Stormy Daniels and Mike and then Cohen, and kind of like 2 people who hate Donald Trump, for which they admitted to during the trial. So that also just reminds us about the political angle of this trial at this point. I am relieved that that Trump's lawyers convinced him not to testify. There was no value in having Donald Trump testify at this point.
Nothing good would come from that.
No, I mean, you want, first of all, you want to, if you're going to testify for any reason, you want that person to be disciplined. That is not Donald Trump. Okay, by any stretch of imagination. So that he could have easily wounded and hurt his own defense at that point in time. But I think the prosecution's case is so flimsy that you didn't need Trump up there,
Yeah.
and often when the defendant gets up there, it's because they're trying to find a way to save their hide and everything like that. There just wasn't any real need to that. So
Yeah.
so I mean the closing argument is coming up this next week after Memorial Day weekend, and then we will see what will happen there. But I cannot imagine that the jury would actually convict Donald Trump of these charges.
But hey, Don, let me ask you: did you think the jury would let Marion Barry off?
Yeah, I mean that is part of the problem with juries, right?
Yeah. It's
or OJ.
Yeah, I was about to say OJ. But here's
but that could work against Trump in a sense that the jury is probably not favorable to him. The OJ jury, they wouldn't have convicted him if he stood up and he did it and she deserved it. He said, "I did it and she deserved it."
Yeah, I think the Democrats want this case to go away because every day he's in New York, Joe Biden's going down in the polls in New York.
Yeah, he's not going to win New York, but he has narrowed the gap. It seems. I mean,
but what this does is this puts Joe Biden on the defense in New York.
Yeah,
New York is like one of those states where I don't need to spend any money there, but now it looks like he's gonna have to spend some money because I mean, here's the thing: he can't ignore New York with Donald Trump within as the polls tighten. If Donald Trump gets within 5 of Joe Biden in New York, Biden's going to have to really play defense to protect New York, frankly.
Well, or New Jersey as well. I mean, New Jersey is another one that could be in play. I don't think New York is, but New Jersey might have a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think to Dwight's point too, though. I mean, it's just that it actually may make the Trump people rethink part of their campaign strategy and say, look, these rallies he's done while he's been up there have been spectacular successes in terms of attendance and support, and it just kind of makes you think like, well, if you spend some time there, you can whittle away at the lead that Biden would have, because those are solidly blue states, and maybe it might force the Democrats to spend some money just to shore up their support, because it's even if Biden still is leading and wins those electoral votes, a narrowing of anything in the popular vote side, which is also something people are going to be watching, is who wins the popular vote, and then and then obviously the electoral vote is what really counts. But if Trump wins both, that's great for him.
What I want is President Trump to do a rally in Woodstock, New York. For no other reason that how many hippies are gonna be really outraged and irritated by the fact that Woodstock, the mothership of all the crazy hippies who are now teaching our kids in public schools and in academia, and are elected to office. They're it's like they're gonna have a collective outrage about that, And you have MSNBC try and find somebody in Woodstock that doesn't want the president there so desperately, like they did at the rally in the Bronx. And he did a phenomenal job. I mean, if I were Joe Biden's campaign, I'd take notice of the people that show in the Bronx. And of the boroughs, Staten Island is the only Republican borough, and all the 4 boroughs, other than Staten Island, have major issues, and maybe the people are ready to try and put Republicans in as borough chiefs.
Yeah,
kind of mimic Staten Island,
Well, that's the other thing too. It's just that whether or not it's on the local side or whatever, it's just that anybody who's down ballot as a Republican, could benefit by Trump's popularity, right? If Trump by showing up and getting all that support, it won't take a whole lot, down ballot in a lot of cases to swing some of these races, to keep Republicans, in their seats in the House or whatever. So that would be key because the House is going to be a battle royale this year.
Very true. And I mean, shifting a little bit, again, last week, guess we had a surprise guest. Our soon-to-be next senator of the great state of Maryland, Larry Hogan, came to the convention. Very warm reception for him. You know, it was a lot of fun. You know, people were very nice, and it was great to see Governor Hogan.
Yeah, I was wondering when I saw that. I thought, was that something that was really pre-planned, or is it?
Nope.
He was invited.
In Hagerstown for a baseball. Did you know Hagerstown has a minor league team now?
What's that?
Hagerstown has a minor league baseball team.
Oh,
They used to when I was a kid.
they had the
Hagerstown Suns.
They had the Hagerstown Suns, and then they
when I
lost,
was a kid.
and they lost them. But they? I know Frederick. You know, they're doing some kind of college level team or something there. I don't know. I didn't know what Hagerstown was doing. You know, when Major League Baseball realigned and basically took over the minor leagues, they jettisoned a lot of small market teams.
Well, they are still the Suns. The Hagerstown Suns is what they're called. Actually, now they're the Flying Boxcars, actually.
Oh, okay.
The Hagerstown Flying Boxcars.
And
They have the funniest names for teams nowadays.
Yes, they do.
So who's playing there in terms of what's the makeup of the team?
Well, let me go to their Wikipedia page. Was announced in 2021. They delayed to 2024. Was announced March 20. Let's see.
Yeah, that's right. You go to Hagerstown Suns and it's talking all about 2020.
No, this is the Hagerstown Flying Boxcars.
Flying Boxcars.
That's
Weird
the name.
name. They have the weirdest names nowadays.
Yeah, let me show you. This is their, which I kind of like their logo. You know.
All right. It says they compete in the Atlantic League, professional baseball North Division, play home games in the country. So they have a new ballpark they're building out there.
Yeah,
too.
well, Larry Hogan funded it when he was governor.
Oh, he funded that stadium? Oh.
Yeah, he was responsible for them getting funded. Well, with the Democrats, you know, obviously, you know, because as we know, Maryland Republicans can't, you know, basically but Larry got them funding for it, you know, and it's you know, it's nice, you know, I guess. But one thing I need to suggest is if we're going to do conventions at these convention halls, why not do a convention at the Bay Sox Stadium? Because they do, you know, we could do something at the Bay Sox Stadium, you know. But the other idea I was throwing out there is people need to bring back Oktoberfest this year. I think would be a lot of fun. Yeah. But I tell you, Don, did you ever go to a Frederick Keys games? Have you ever been to one of their Keys games out there?
The Keys?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't been there for years, and now they got cut off from the minor league system, so they have a different set of players there. I think it's more of a college developmental team.
Yeah,
but I like that park and that place. The Hagerstown Park, I went up there when Bryce Harper was playing, you know, because we had to go watch Bryce Harper play
before he now plays in Philadelphia, right?
Before he hit the majors, and. But I just took a look at that park. That building. That looks like it's going to be quite a park there compared to the old Hagerstown Stadium there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I tell you what, the reason I asked you about the Keys is, it's a really. I had more fun at the Bay Sox than at the Keys games. I think the Bay Sox game seems more interesting than the. It seems to be more a level of excitement, I should say, at a Bay Sox game.
I mean, it is one step up from the Keys, right? The Keys were the A team, the Bay Sox are the double A team.
Yep.
So you see a difference every time you move a step up in the minor league system.
Yeah.
So, you know, generally a nicer ballpark, you know, more events, more, you know, whatever. I mean, they do. I mean, Bay Sox have got pretty regular, you know, fireworks show, which is pretty decent during, you know, during their season.
But you know, also this past weekend, one of those troglodytes from hell has gone to hell. Is the president of Iran was killed in a helicopter accident Oh, Susan, you have to go to the Bay Sox Stadium. It's right there off of 301. You should go drive by there. The tickets are still pretty cheap. I think like they're $12 is what the tickets are there.
I don't know. They said they were going to raise them this year. I know that I checked the group rates because I did a couple of group things last year. Looks like the group rates are holding, but they're still, I mean, minor league baseball is still a pretty good bargain. I mean, it's usually very family friendly, relatively inexpensive, and you get you have a great time, and the Bay Sox, things like that. They actually have a decent parking lot. So, and where the parking's free. The Keys thing is that the Keys never really had much of a parking lot, so it's always kind of a hit or miss thing as to how you park over there.
Yeah. I used to go there for, like, there was a network development group that used to meet over at the Bay Sox. I thought it was just kind of fun to do that. The meetings would be in the luxury boxes.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Well, and luxury
box at Bay Sox Stadium, not exactly like if you went, to the
Camden Yards
or something like that. Yeah.
But but as I was saying, back to the president. I tell you, he's just gonna be replaced by another crazy whack job over in Iran. Frankly, the president died in that. And was it the foreign minister that also died in that helicopter crash, or was it just the president there?
Yeah, I don't think he was alone, but I didn't follow.
Yeah,
but but our president did express his condolences. It's like nothing like the president of the U.S. expressing condolences for a mass murder, in essence.
Yeah, that was a little bit outrageous, frankly. And did you see the pier we built for those people in Gaza is out there? I don't know if you saw the video. Bats was telling me about. He goes, how do they get? Do they just back the trucks all the way up to that? Because you can't turn the truck around. I guess that's what they do. You roll the trucks back and or you roll the trucks, and that's how they probably do that. Unless there's a place they can turn around once they get to the pier, per se.
It's a good question. I don't know the answer to
that. We've got very smart viewers, so they'll find it. They'll say something. But I am still of the mindset we never should have built that pier for Gaza, frankly. And my point here's the okay, Gaza. They talk about this, they talk about that, right? They would not have had these problems if they didn't decide to go to an all-out attack on Israel on October 7th. And now they're all talking about a ceasefire. Everyone's outraged about no ceasefire. I tell you this. I think what should happen is the ceasefire they should have an unconditional surrender, frankly. That's the only acceptable solution here. Unconditional surrender by Hamas. But the UN, I don't think they would go for something like that, but who cares about the UN?
Well, fortunately, I think Bibi's holding strong, and I think he's convinced of destroying Hamas, so he hasn't been talked out of it.
That's
and then
great.
Hopefully then it can end.
Yeah. But I think, we're coming up, and I just cannot believe those in the media. I mean, George Clooney's wife is all about, arresting, but then again, I believe, I could be wrong, but I believe she also wanted to arrest George W. Bush and Dick Cheney, too, for war crimes.
Yeah, probably.
She's one of those crazy extremists,
Yeah.
But then we have, in the old days, let me tell you this, Don, you know me, I'm a big fan of the old CIA, the John Dulles CIA, the CIA of George H.W. Bush, before Congress tied their hands and said, you can't destabilize governments, you can't assassinate our enemies. I mean, what's the point of having a CIA if you can't, bring about revolutions and take out bad people, pass out guns to the good guys and rich history.
Well, because the day the Kamal Clooney's and all those folks their view of the bad guys are also not our views of the bad guys. So in other words, it's not a matter of just taking out. They would take out good people if they could.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I mean, we've been getting more hamstrung on what our special ops can do, and and all the undercover stuff and all these secret things. But other countries basically they don't follow suit, right? I mean, they're still continuing their type of activities. So it's like, all right, so we've tied up our guys so they can't really do much, while others are out there working against us and other countries, conducting their own nefarious operations. Is like, they're maybe, I know a lot of people don't like those kinds of things, but if others in the world are doing it, we need to at least keep up with that. You can't just say, well, we're going to pull back on this and just let everybody else go and try to launch attacks on us, undermine our allies, et cetera, et cetera. So it's it's a very different CIA than we were used to.
Yeah. I mean, we brought down the regime in Iran in '52 for, I think it was only like, I want to say like about $70,000, or even that, if it was even that much. But I mean, it was relatively cheap, and honestly, if the CIA, if we had, when they had the Green Revolution in the days of Barack Hussein Obama, if we had the CIA there handing out guns to the good guys, we may have, Iran might look very differently today, frankly.
Yeah, I mean, U.S. spycraft isn't what it used to be.
No, it's not. It's a pale imitation of itself, frankly. It started with Congress handcuffing the CIA. I mean, now they're doing the exact same thing. Handcuffing the CIA. They're doing that to law enforcement. These local municipalities are handcuffing law enforcement, and people are complaining about the rise of crime. Funny how defunding the police has a direct correlation to a spike in crime, or soft on crime legislation that's going around, But also this week, I think after the trial is over, I think the Veep stakes will be in full swing. Who do you like, Don, for President Trump's VP pick?
I don't know. I mean, Tim Scott seems fine. I'm fine with that. I mean, I think Christine Nome pretty much imploded. He pretty much blew her chance there. So that's out. I mean, other names have been, Doug Burgum's been tossed around as someone because he's got a lot of wealth, and as Trump has said, is that he's a good-looking guy or whatever. Which Trump says these things is like, okay.
And this is why we didn't want him on the stands.
Yeah. He says these things is like, I didn't realize that we were choosing them based on that as well.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like, I don't know if you remember the old show What's Happening, Don.
Oh yeah.
Dwayne had a system for picking bets, and he picked which football team had the better helmet logo, and that's how he picked the winners. That was his system, and
I think Trump likes the central casting type of look. I think whether it be a man or a woman, he wants you to look the part, I guess.
I think Tom Cotton would be a great VP. Frankly, I think. I know Marco's on the short list, but which one's going to have to move out of Florida? Donald Trump or President Trump or Senator Rubio?
Yeah, that's right. They both can't come from there. But is there time in terms of establishing residence?
Yeah, I mean, you
have to establish residence in a different state.
Remember, Dick Cheney changed his residence, I think, about 3-4 weeks before the convention in 2000.
Right. That's right.
He was in charge of the search committee. He looked high and low, far and near. And then he looked in the mirror and goes, hey, I could be VP.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but I mean, Dick Cheney, great, one of our best vice presidents we've had since Vice President Agnew.
I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Greg Abbott in there. That would create an interesting dynamic there.
That would be, and that'd be a really good pick. Greg Abbott, would be a good pick. You know who else? I know it's not going to happen, but I'll tell you, Chris Sununu, the former governor of New Hampshire, he'd be a great running mate for President Trump. I think he would be a lot like Michael Pence was for him 8 years ago.
Well, I think I'm going to be accused of being a homer, but I think Youngkin would be excellent because it'd be a way to establish in terms of money and raising money. A lot of the billionaires like
He's
Youngkin.
got a Chinese sounding last name, David.
Yeah, that's right. Also, it's a good reach to the middle and sort of the centrists. Also, it's a more of a dramatic pick, I think. Someone who truly would be seen as more of the outsider in a sense of they haven't seen before. A lot of the people we mentioned, you guys have mentioned good people, but I think a lot of the folks that people mention are people kind of been around, and I don't think really necessarily caught fire.
In 1928, I was shocked that he picked Dan Quayle. I was almost convinced it was going to be Alan Simpson or somebody like that.
I actually kind of figured Quayle because Bush was behind a good bit. He needed something to kind of shake up the race, and he probably figured he'll pick out a young outsider. I think that's what he was trying to. And plus, Bush had a lot of the experience and the Washington experience and all, so he didn't really need his opposite. He didn't necessarily need someone who had a long Washington resume like an Obama would need. So,
I think President Bush could have picked up. I think Governor Duke Majan would have been a great running mate for him in 1988.
Or Pete DuPont. I like Pete DuPont.
Pete DuPont was really good. Jack Kemp, this is the ultimate of Monday morning quarterbacking, Donna, for vice presidential picks for a campaign from 1988.
Yeah.
But I think, Pete DuPont would have been that. I think Pete DuPont would have been one of our best presidents ever.
I think so. Yeah. I like Pete.
I think Mitch Daniels, he would make a phenomenal vice president.
But Don made a good point, which I hadn't thought about, and that's Abbott of Texas, because then in that case you would have a real stark contrast. You'd have Trump and Abbott basically really hitting hard on the border, which is a big issue, and a big issue even in blue states and cities. So that would be another way to really enforce that.
I think actually the one of the things that would hold back Youngkin for Trump is that Youngkin is taller than Trump, right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, probably.
And I think that's another thing that Trump thinks is like, there's no way he wants to stand next to somebody who's taller than him.
Well, that takes Scott Walker. What do you call it? Tom Cotton.
Trump's ego is way too big for this.
Yeah. That takes Tom Cotton off too, Don.
Yeah, Cotton's very tall too.
I remember he spoke at our Lincoln Day dinner back in 2016.
Yeah.
Well, how tall is Burgum? I wonder how tall Burgum is.
That's a good question.
Is Burgum taller?
He looks tall.
But Burgum might not be a bad choice. And again, and one of the reasons I suggest Youngkin is it is going to be kind of a money issue as well. I mean, Biden's going to be outspending us big time, and so I think Trump's.
We outraised him this last quarter. We raised more money than Joe Biden did.
Okay. Yeah. But that's the thing about a Burgum or a Youngkin. They think it might help fundraising. So,
I think, they really need to get a governor, frankly.
Yeah.
I think governors make for better presidents, frankly.
Oh, I do too.
Burgum's 5'8", so he's clearly much shorter than Trump.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I can make it too. But
this is the average Joe kind of guy, right?
The thing is,
you know what he should do? He should do like an apprentice style selection process.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're hired.
Yeah, and then whittle people down, and every week
you can have the whole boardroom, just like the show.
Yeah,
no, but
do that.
The thing I will say about him, and I'm voting for him, and I like him generally, but my one critique against him is sometimes he just makes the oddest sort of picks. And I can't figure out some of these things, whether it's an Omarosa, whether it's Scaramucci, whether it's Chris Wray. There are just times when he makes picks that are just like total head scratchers. So I don't know what to think. I don't know what to predict in this case of who he's going to go with.
And I think that's why it's really hard to handicap the Veep stakes as such, is because he does not follow conventional wisdom.
Yeah, that's right.
What do you think of this?
And those White House those staff picks and everything that he did, in his first term. There's no telling what he would do in a second term. It's like, who is he going to pick to run his team, and in the next go round, because they could be equally as odd.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
What if he goes to outside of politics, like a captain of the industry, so to speak, like a business person like himself?
I don't think so.
Well,
Remember Rex Tillerson? He went with the captain of industry as Secretary of State, and that was kind of a disaster in the case of
Yeah,
Rex.
that didn't work out very
It
well.
was a disaster for Exxon shareholders too, Dave, by the way.
Huh?
It was a disaster for Exxon shareholders too when he left Exxon.
Yeah. I guess.
Our stocks dipped when he left.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you can have a businessman as a vice president potentially, because it's a different role than being in the cabinet. Tillerson was, he was a fine CEO for Exxon, but the Department of State is a whole different animal, and requires a skill set that Tillerson fell short of. He may have been running a global oil giant, but that does not mean you know how to deal with people on the level that you need to deal with. I mean, look at Trump has put, Biden has put forth this diversity, cabinet, which has been an absolute disaster. There's really nothing good in anybody that's running any department in the Biden administration at all. Just that alone should say you got to vote the guy out, because some of these people will get replaced if Biden wins the second term. But he's still hung up on, diversity. So this is not the way you fill positions. It's based on that. And Trump, if he finds the best people for the best positions, and I think in the end, Trump's cabinet wasn't all that bad.
That was good.
It kind of made its way along there, but we're getting towards the end of the Biden administration, his first term, and it's like this cabinet is a disaster.
Yeah, he's a clown. But I will say this with the VP search: I'm sorry that the dog died, but I'm kind of glad that Kristi Noem's out of it, because I never really thought she was going to bring that much to it.
Well, that was our red, white, and blue dinner speaker for last year for the Maryland State Party.
The one last thing that I don't see, and I hope he doesn't go with her. I have nothing against her, but Elise Stefanik, I'm sure she's fine as a member of Congress, but I don't see that either as vice presidential material.
Yeah.
Anyway.
What about Lee Zeldin?
Not really. I mean, I don't know what he brings you.
Well, before he spoke at the Anne Arundel County Lincoln Reagan dinner, I thought he'd be decent, but after that, no.
Okay.
Big no to Lee Zeldin.
All right, yeah.
But what if he went with like a Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson as his running mate?
I like Carson. I'm not sure what he brings. I guess maybe he could bring something to the ticket.
Yeah, I mean, I like Carson too, but I look at Carson a little bit like Boyd Rutherford. Good guy, but kind of quiet tone, not very forceful. Mm-hmm. And I really do think, and Vance's name has been tossed around too.
Yeah, Vance would be good. I like JD.
Yeah, you want someone who's got some bite to them. That vice presidential position, it needs to be a competent person, but a lot of times, they should be the attack dog, because they have far less to lose. And
that's what Bob Dole said. Remember that Bob Dole said that, he needed an attack dog. Yeah,
so that would be good. You want somebody who can do that, who can take the hits, but also can dish a lot of it out, and that would somebody who can just deflect a lot of the attention away from Trump.
By the way, just throwing it out there, President Trump, I would not be opposed to you picking Vice President Dan Quayle to being your running mate. I would not be opposed to that. I mean, I tell you, you think the media has lost their minds? If he picked Dan Quayle, they would just be on steroids.
Well, I think they're also kind of, I think the media has also tossed out trying to throw out some fear that Trump would actually pick one of his kids.
Well, I mean, it wouldn't be that. It wouldn't be like, well, technically the vice president's a cabinet is part of the cabinet, so thereby the RFK rule comes into play there. He can't have relatives because remember after JFK put Bobby Kennedy in as AG, the Congress went in and decided, nope, no more family members, no more blatant nepotism. Hence, otherwise, I think Roger Clinton would have been the beer baron for the Clinton administration.
Yeah.
Actually, Billy Bush, not Billy Bush, Billy Carter could have been the first beer baron.
Could have been the agriculture secretary.
That is true too. Yeah. But I think another sleeper pick for VP, which nobody would see coming, I think, would be picking somebody like not Matt Gaetz, but somebody like him, a young attack dog. I don't think Vivek Ramaswamy, frankly, is ready for prime time. I don't think he'd be good, but I don't think Matt Gaetz would be good, but somebody like him, a younger
Jim Jordan.
Yeah, or not Jim Jordan. I was thinking more like what's his name? Chuck Fleischman, the congressman from Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, he's a young guy, very friendly too. But I met him in Cleveland when we were waiting in line for the delegation meeting at the Cleveland sports place, sports arena. And it was, the other is, I think, another good person. I mean, if you wanted a woman, Nikki Haley would not be the worst possible choice for VP, frankly.
I agree. Maybe consider Haley. That'll really drive the media crazy because they were building her up and saying all kinds of nice things about her because she was attacking Trump. And then what if he picks her? Then what are they going to say?
I know.
Yeah,
I remember
considering all the public bad blood between them, that would kind of wound up being the unconventional pick in a lot of ways. People
but that can make him look really good because they could say, "Gee, he's not all that petty after all."
I mean, remember 19 Bush v. Reagan? I mean, the primary, that was a messy primary between President Reagan and.
That's true. Remember in '80, Bush accused
voodoo
Reagan
economics.
of voodoo economics, and still ended up supporting him and being on the ticket with him.
Dave, this sounds like your Substack piece.
It is actually. Oh, you read it? Okay, great.
I read it. Yeah.
Good. Well, then you did read it. Yeah,
it was good. It was good because you went after going talking about the never Trumpers as well. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
In terms of that, what that group was really made up of.
Yeah.
Or no, this is like the biggest one that would throw everyone into a little bit of cataclysm. It is Governor Larry Hogan.
Yeah.
But we need Larry to run for Senate. We need him in the Senate.
We need him there. But what do you think? This is the first time we've been together since also Brooks won, right? This is the first time.
I think Larry's going to win this one because I've been talking to some Democrats. They just don't like also Brooks, frankly.
Yeah, I guess the concern is though that Biden's going to carry Maryland by 20 or so points. So I'm not saying Hogan can win, but he'd have to have a lot of Dems backing him.
I'd like to do a little PSA since we're talking about Angela Alsop Brooks. Everyone in the media seems to have forgotten Carol Moseley Braun. I heard somebody on ABC. I even heard somebody on Fox say she's going to be the first African American woman senator in the U.S. Senate. I'm like, no, Carol Moseley Braun. How soon we forget?
Oh, she'll be the first black woman senator for Maryland.
No, but they've been saying the U.S. Senate. They don't do from Maryland. They do the first black woman senator. Period. It's like they just whitewash Carol Moseley Braun's one term in the Senate.
Yeah.
She ran for president. If you remember, Dave.
Yeah, I remember. She had one uneventful term and was defeated by Peter Fitzgerald. I remember she got defeated by a Republican. Fitzgerald was only a one-termer, but he's a good guy.
Yeah, and then 7 of 9 kind of messed things up for him.
What was that?
Because Jerry Ryan, his wife.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That
got released. But Illinois, when we were growing up, Illinois was a Democrat sort of state, but it was swing. It was possible. But Illinois has become a pretty deep blue state, and
I
I
mean,
guess
remember Paul Simon? I mean, Paul liked Paul Simon actually,
yeah, I
Mr.
remember Paul.
Bowtie.
Yeah, my
Because
father
he was
was.
also, yeah, go ahead.
My father always said it with Paul Simon. He had those funny ears. Remember the Paul Simon
Yeah.
ears? But yeah, he was an interesting guy, an old sort of prairie liberal, like an Adlai Stevenson.
Yeah. And, but I think, I think the president needed to have somebody like another Mike Pence, frankly, to be his running mate.
Yeah.
Kind of stabilizer, so to speak.
Yeah,
I mean,
like a foil. In other words, usually you pick the running mate, someone a little different from you, or someone who can differentiate or compensate, kind of. So that's why I think Youngkin's still a good compensation, though, for Trump in terms of being perceived as more of the moderate or the level-headed type. But anyway, it's just
yeah, and just for all you folks that want Byron Donalds,
yeah,
they're from the same state. It's not going to be Rick Scott. It's not going to be Marco Rubio, and it's not going to be Byron Donalds. Just stop.
Yeah.
It's not going to be Nancy Mace, or is that her name? Yeah, Nancy Mace.
Yeah.
He should pick John Fetterman and get Fetterman to change his registration.
Yeah,
I've heard rumors if the Republicans take the Senate, he's gonna.
By
the way,
Fetterman's positions lately on some things are like they're more to our side than their side.
And
hey, what about the unity ticket, Joe Manchin?
Yeah.
No.
I get the sense Manchin doesn't like Trump that much, really. I don't think that's going to work.
But here's something I want to put out there. Okay, all the Democrats are saying Larry's going to be the 51st senator. Let me just clear things up for the Democrats. Jim Justice will be 51, McCormick will be 52, and Larry will be the 53rd senator. So it makes no difference, frankly. We're taking the Senate by 3. I just said it right now.
McCormick, we'll see about McCormick. I don't know about that one in particular.
But then there's Nevada. Nevada's another one.
Nevada, I think, is definitely in play.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Kerry Lake wins in Arizona.
Oh, I never.
At this point. But yeah, I mean, the Democrats, their whole thing has been built on, Hogan, giving control of the Senate to Republicans, which is a
sorry, guys, it's Jim Justice that's going to give control to the Republicans.
Well, yeah, that is once again it is all predicated on Republicans
Governor Hogan
holding their seats, which is never. It's just not a guarantee. But if Republicans hold the seats they have, all we need is Jim Justice, and that's a shoo-in. And then we've got that. But it doesn't hurt to have the extra cushion. The thing is that based on how Hogan has already portrayed himself and everything like this, he's not going to be a whole lot better for conservatives than Susan Collins or Mitt Romney, right? I mean,
Don, you and I and Dave also, I think, is old enough to remember when Mac Mathias represented the state of Maryland. I think he'd be better than Mac Mathias.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean,
or he might actually be in the same vein as a Mac Mathias.
I mean, Hogan's staking out the pro-abortion position. I think he's looking at it like, okay, if I am going to convince independents and unaffiliated, I've got to go there because the Democrats have had pretty good success, since Roe v. Wade was struck down, of winning elections. Talking about Republicans and abortion. Republicans have done a terrible job on messaging on abortion. So Hogan has come out with that. Now, what that does is that will turn off a lot of very, hardline pro-life Republicans in the state of Maryland. But what's really, the registration being what it is, I think a lot of them still vote for Hogan, and then he's just got to pick up. He's got to pick up those unaffiliated. He's got to pick up some Democrats who liked him as the governor or don't like also Brooks. Take those unaffiliated, take those independents, and then I think he can find a path to victory. But it is going to be because Dave alluded to it earlier. Biden is going to carry the state by a fairly wide margin. So, also Brooks stands right now to gain down ballot, favor, but there's nothing that says there won't be split tickets because Hogan is very different. Hogan has definitely scared the Democrats. They're going to have to spend money, and that's not what they wanted to do in Maryland. They didn't want to spend money in Maryland.
And the Democrat Senatorial Committee they don't like spending money. They're used to taking money out of Maryland and spending it in states like North Carolina, Virginia, and on your side of the river, does Hung Cao win the primary?
I don't know. It's a crowded one. I still have to vote. It's crowded. It's hard to say. I don't know. I'm leaning towards a guy named Jonathan Emord.
Where's he from?
Emord, he's never been in office, so I don't think he has a constituency here. But he goes, I think, all the way back to the Reagan years. He was young enough to spend some time there. So.
Oh wow.
We'll see. But I don't know. I don't know if Hung Cao wins it or not. I'm not sure that.
He'd probably be the best to go on up against Tim Kaine, frankly.
Yeah, I met a lady the other day that's backing him. She told me she's backing
Bobby Kilmer. She hosted a great fundraiser for Larry Hogan over there in Virginia, Bobby Kilmer.
Yeah.
And now she's got a fundraiser for Kelly Ayotte in the next couple of weeks at her house.
All right.
She would actually be not a bad pick for a VP, Kelly Ayotte, frankly.
Yeah. Well,
I think there's a little bit of bad strife between the two there. I mean,
yeah, but I think the tendency is to pick someone who's still kind of or is just very recently, just maybe a year or two removed from office at best. So at the worst, so that you get somebody who's still kind of got some name recognition for voters and can build upon that. I mean, you don't go in and remember for McCain, do not go to Alaska to pick your VP candidate, please.
Yeah.
But by the way, New Hampshire now is considered a toss-up, is moving towards toss-up. There's a poll that recently that showed it's basically.
Well, I remember a year. I remember New Hampshire used to always vote Republican. Vermont would vote blue. That would be that thing of the upper Northwest. You have blue, and then you have New Hampshire, which would vote Republican.
And New Hampshire was like the Isle of Sanity and Island of Sanity in the Sea of Nuttiness.
Yeah.
I remember you had. Who was the old senator? I can see him, but I can't.
Warren Rudman.
Well, you had the Gordon Humphrey, right? You had Gordon Humphrey. Bob Smith. Remember Bob Smith?
Yeah, I remember Bob Smith is my old friend. Bob was actually going to carry the legislation for keeping the internet free of special taxes and fees.
Yeah. And you also had Sununu. Remember Sununu? Well, you've had the governor.
John Sununu, yeah. And
John Sununu.
Warren Rudman was probably their best senator, frankly.
Oh, yeah, I remember Warren
Who could
Rudman.
forget Graham Rudman,
That's right. But you know why Sununu won the hearts of the Bush HW? Because in that election, John Sununu was the governor, and he threw his support behind George H.W. Bush there in '88. Mm-hmm. And George H.W. ended up winning it and then returned the favor by making Sununu chief of staff, as I recall the history of that.
Yeah, John Sununu was not a bad guy. Yeah, I liked him.
Yeah, Sununu was. Yeah, I didn't dislike Sununu. I think he got a bum rap over the helicopter thing. Remember when they used it?
If you remember, John Tower got a bum rap in the Reagan administration. John Tower was used to be a womanizer.
They started saying he was a drinker. He drunk and.
He's a womanizer, but he wasn't even married. So how can you be a womanizer when you're not married?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He was a small, short little guy, I believe.
Yeah.
And the other thing about John Tower is I think he was the first elected Republican senator in like Texas's history, because there were always Democrats throughout the 20th century, and then you had John Tower. John Tower ended up winning.
And then followed by Phil Graham, the second Republican senator.
That's right. Yep, Phil Graham. That's right.
Phil Graham. I loved Phil Graham. Phil Graham was awesome. Every time he'd run into Phil Graham, he'd always tell you the story about how he failed the third grade 4 times, the fourth grade 3 times. Then his mom introduced him to some nuns.
Yeah. Didn't he always have a story about he had the average guy he always talked about?
Yeah.
And I think it was like a postman or something. He talked about this guy, and he explained politics through that guy's eyes in terms of spending and stuff.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I tell you, Phil Graham offered Connie Morella back in 1994 a lot of money because he was running the senatorial committee to run for U.S. Senate from Maryland.
Okay.
That was, what's funny is 94 may have been the last time we had a really good chance of winning the Senate seat with a Connie Morella type,
Probably.
Or was that 96?
Yeah.
Actually, no, that was 96, not 94.
Yeah.
And she would have, she probably could have won. And I think Larry Hogan is our next big, our best shot at winning the Senate seat. I mean, so the Never Larry people, would you rather have also Brooks or Larry Hogan, who you agree with, say 60% of the time?
Right, that's always the issue with a lot of these things, right? It's like, look, we realize that they're going to be things we disagree with him on, and the MAGA Republicans are, having a hard time with Hogan, but there's a look at the bigger picture, and it's like you want an R in the Senate, and he's still going to be better than the alternative. And people they can't get over that, there's this hatred and this whole thing. It's like, look, there's some political strategy here that you've got to think too. Is like we in politics, we make some compromises. We're not going to be able to get the politically pure people we want all the time, particularly in the state of Maryland. So yeah, come on, let's think about this of what can we get, and deal with it that way. But yeah, the people, the Republicans in Maryland who've turned against Larry, I'm sorry, it's like, look, I'm not crazy. I'm definitely in disagreement about this whole pro-choice stance that he's come out and taken. And I flirted with the idea of working on a campaign and doing these things. I won't do that now, but he'll get my vote.
Yeah. I think what we need to do, Don, is I like making tchotchkes, getting clothespins. Let's say Hogan for U.S. Senate. So you just put the clothespin on when you go to vote, and you vote for Larry Hogan.
A lot of us did that for Bush.
We did that for well, I did not. I was enthusiastic about President George W. Bush, the Great. I did that for John McCain. I had to hold my nose to vote for John McCain. John McCain.
I had to hold my nose for a couple. I think McCain more than Romney. Bush, the second time, I sort of held my nose. I think back on him, and I would have had more trouble. And
I don't understand. A lot of the people out there, they don't understand. Okay, first of all, President George W. Bush, they blame him for Afghanistan and Iraq. But got news for you. We were attacked on 9/11. What did you want him to do? To be like Joe Biden and do a mealy mouth response saying we'll send you a stern letter saying we're not happy that you blew up the World Trade Center? I mean, we need to stand up to terrorism, and President Bush stood up to terrorism. He was very Churchillian in that. The way Winston Churchill stood up to the Nazis, President George W. Bush stood up to Islamo-terrorists, all over the world. Yeah, and the world is safer without Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein. The world is a safer place without them.
Yeah, and he didn't say he was going to take the victory like Biden. Take the victory.
Yeah,
it's true.
And also here's the thing: we won both. We won Iraq. We won Afghanistan. The media did a constant, steady drumbeat of the death count from the war. Every day there was a building on K Street that had a running tally of everyone injured in the war. And technology's gotten so much better. People are not dying on the battlefields; they're surviving, coming back.
Well, they did the same thing. Remember with Trump and the COVID, they had the death tally there. Then once Biden got elected, they stopped running the death tally.
Yeah, I tell you, Obama gets elected, the death tally just disappeared. Or he not Are people not dying anymore because of Barack
Yeah.
Hussein Obama?
Yeah.
And it's one of those crazy little things. You wonder. And
Well, I think no matter what, I mean, I think Biden is just so dreadful of a candidate that this really shouldn't be close. Sadly, I think it'll be close because Trump has his own baggage. But let's be honest, this shouldn't be close. When you're at 36% approval rating, as I saw the other day, you have no business getting elected. Not only that, no business really running. I mean, you shouldn't even be running with a 36% approval rating.
Yeah, I'll tell
You should
you this.
retire,
Yeah.
honestly.
Yeah, what did Hillary Clinton said? It's sad that they're actually putting someone up. Well, why can't they just let us have this one?
What was that?
The basically when Barack Hussein Obama and her ran in '08, she goes, it'd be nice if the Republicans would just say, fine, we messed up. We're not going to put anyone up. You just take this now. But they're going to make us fight for every square inch. And honestly, well, President Bush, the economy was improving under President Bush. The stock market was headed up. Barack Obama just got lucky.
Yeah. And even in 92, the economy was technically out of recession when Bush was still president, but he didn't get the credit for that.
Yeah.
And
And by the way,
too late.
TARP saved America.
What was that?
TARP, that President Bush gets a lot of criticism. That saved America, frankly,
Probably. I agree.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're almost at final thoughts. We got 4 minutes left, so why don't we get to final thoughts? Donovan, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Credit to Americans for Prosperity for rolling back gas prices to $2.38 a gallon. They have selected a bunch of cities, a lot of smaller cities. They're all over the place, but several of them are actually in battleground areas too. So that's maybe there's a little bit of strategy going on there. I could only imagine what the lines are going to be like every time they're going to do this, because you're well over $1 below what people were paying for before. And I don't know how much AFP is spending on this thing. Usually there's a limit to how much gas can be pumped at that price. Before the station, they make a deal before they say, 10,000 gallons or whatever it is. But that's a great promo for them and a reminder, about the difference of gas prices today versus gas prices when Biden came into office. The things that Biden tries to talk about and lie about, right? He talks about how inflation was 9% when he came into office. It's like his mind is so muddled. He can't remember, he can't even remember what the inflation rate was there. Yeah, there was an inflation rate of 9%, but that was actually when you were in office during the height of your presidency. So I wouldn't be talking about 9% inflation.
Yeah.
I think you want people to forget about that before people point out it's like, no, it was closer to 2% when you came in. And
there's a chart actually how the average price of gas in the country according to AAA was $1.96 on January 2021. Yeah. And then today the average price is $3.69, or might have gone up because that was a couple of days ago. I looked at the average, might be up to $3.70 now. But I mean, gas is getting more expensive because they switched over to the summertime blend. And I think just the other day with the death of the Iranian president, crude oil jumped up $4 up to like $93 a barrel or something like that.
Yeah, it's hard to control, some of these things, but and Biden's released 1 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in an effort to try to get them back down again. But that's us monkeying with the system. He's done this several times to try to blunt the increases, but a lot of this stuff has to do too with all this green energy policy nonsense, right? I mean, all the things that they're trying to do there forces up the prices of energy all the way around. I saw the other day how electric utility stocks were actually going up, and it's not because they were always kind of one of those dowdy investments of you buy utilities because they had a good dividend, but they've not really done all that well because their business model has been kind of just falling apart for a number of years. But the demand on the electricity grid has been, now people at the Wall Street is saying, oh, wait a minute, these companies, they could stand to make a lot of money because of AI and everything like that. On the other hand, all this green energy stuff is like, we're not going to produce enough green energy to run a lot of these systems. And then the electricity, there's how much electricity can we generate if we're shutting down coal plants and natural gas plants and everything like that? The greenies are destroying America while they're pushing all this EV stuff and everything else down our throats. I mean, I saw a thing where Ford has gotten involved, on this EPA rule about energy and cars and things like that, and they're saying like, no, it's like we think the EPA is right on this regulation, but Ford lost a ton of money, whereas a lot of other auto manufacturers, they pulled back and said, no, we don't want to lose that kind of money. So Ford is basically trying to, in essence, force their competition to also produce more EVs and lose more money, and so they can all be in the same boat. There's so much nonsense going on around all this energy policy at this point. Once again, thank you, Joe Biden, for turning your energy policy, among other things, over to the lefties. And this is what you get.
Yeah.
Today, when I went to go buy my Cadillac Escalade, you'd have for every 7 Cadillac Lyrics, which is their AV, which is a beautiful car, okay, you'd have 1 Escalade. And they only had like 4 Escalades on the entire lot when I was looking, I remember they used to have rows and rows and rows of cars. And nobody's buying these EVs, frankly, But, yeah.
I mean, that's part of the problem. And then finally, just shades of the late 1960s or 70s, the Vietnam War protests, with all the encampments and protests on college campuses that have largely gone unchecked. They're going to wind down as the semester ends, but I feel sorry.
Back in September.
Yeah, well, they could be, and some of them could decide to show up at the DNC convention, right? And they decide to do. So there's still a lot of things that are potentially going on there, but you got to feel sorry for the students that really wanted nothing to do about this. All they want to do was take their final exams. The seniors wanted to get their graduation, get their diplomas and whatnot, and yet you've got graduations being altered, canceled, whatever. And how many of these students were also in 2020 saw their high school graduations get canceled because of COVID? So they're getting the double whammy on a couple of milestones in their life, all political. I mean, COVID was a joke. That should, those things should never have happened. And all of this is, that happens now is because you've got feckless university presidents who don't do anything, with the exception, I guess, of the University of Chicago, who decided, the president there said, I'm not tolerating this, and decided that he was taking action. The Columbia University president took some action, but I think that was some pressure after her colleagues at Harvard and UPenn resigned after not being able to handle the issue before, and yet even though they called in the police and arrested a bunch of people, in the end what happens is that they take over Hamilton Hall. It's like, no, if you don't let them take over your building, okay? You don't do that. This is not what happens today. So Minouche Shafiq, she needs to go as well. I mean, this is just ridiculous. These Ivy League presidents, they've been terrible. The current Harvard president, he caved into the protesters, and that's what we've seen more often than not. It's just that when the encampments have ended, the protests have ended, it's because the administrators have said, okay, we'll give you a little bit of, we'll give you what you want, including the revival of the boycott, divest, sanction movement, which had kind of largely died off. They're getting a chance to now, they've been using that as a way to say, we want the university's endowments, to divest themselves of anything related to Israel. So this is just a crying shame with what's going on here.
Okay, final thoughts, Dave Shepard.
Well, good news. My book is out.
All
It
Where
right.
is
can they buy
on,
that book?
Oh, yes. It's on Amazon now. It's short. It's 170 pages, so it's a quick read. My mother read it. She said she did it in just a couple sittings, so that's good. It's on Amazon, but if you'd rather buy it from me, I'm sure we can make arrangements. A lot of people don't want to go buy things on Amazon, but on Amazon, you can read a free clip, so you can read the first chapter. And I did a Substack column today. Don read, so that's very nice. And doing good and hanging in there. And the only thing I'd also add with Don's, I'd piggyback on the university's giving in. I don't know what the school was, but the students were demanding one of their demands. Very reasonable, I think. They wanted the divestment stuff. Well, the university was willing to meet with them on it, and I don't understand. They shouldn't have done that. They should have said, "We're not meeting with you on anything." But they met with
That's what Columbia did. No, Harvard did. That's what Harvard did. This current president said, "Yes, we will allow you to meet with our board and to present your case on divestment." It's like plus the students they put on involuntary leaves of absence. They're basically going to reinstate them, right? It's like, well, then what the heck? What's going on?
Yeah.
And what I want to know is whatever happened to not negotiating with terrorists?
Yeah, I agree. Well, they're kids, and you shouldn't give in. It's just the equivalent of putting I'm going to hold my breath until you do what I want. But anyway, so that's about it. But like I said, check it out. I think you'll like the book, and that's about it.
Okay, great.
You see, Susan,
My final,
to hold it up again.
yeah, hold your book up again.
Norton's Choice. The point of the book is
There we go.
He's the governor, and he has to make a choice because I won't tell you the whole story, but the party abandons him, and then he's got to decide to stay or fight because he could probably limp out the final year of his term or to leave. And if he leaves, does he want something as an inducement to leave, like a golden parachute? But anyway, the book talks about him making that choice at the end.
Cliffhanger there. Hang on to that cliff and go buy the book.
Yeah, please do. You'll love it.
Yeah. Okay. My final thoughts are one. Our neighbors over in Prince George's County, the Republican Party there, they're going to have Daryl Issa as their speaker on June 11th at Martin's Crosswinds, right by Goddard, NASA, a beautiful part of Prince George's County. Come on out. It's safe. And that's June 11th. And it's fine, The sun's out to about 8:30, so, you're fine. And then our friends in Baltimore County, they got Dr. Ben Carson. This is a repeat. Dr. Ben Carson spoke there after he spoke at a prayer breakfast in Washington, D.C. when Barack Hussein Obama was president. He's coming back. He had so much fun then. He's coming back to Baltimore County on June 28th. Come on out and see him. Be a lot of fun, And it's Dr. Carson's a good speaker, so it'd be a lot of fun. And the food's really good at the Woodhome Country Club. And it's not that hard to get there from this part of the state. Susan wants you to, And the Maryland GOP has their annual red, white, and blue dinner. Early bird is ending soon. I'm not sure when, but I encourage you to go out and buy your tickets for the red, white, and blue dinner. It is on June 19th. It's a federal holiday, for us. So you can just go out there and get that. Go there, it's going to be at the Annapolis DoubleTree. And the tickets are really a low, crazy low price. So I think they're only $175. I could be wrong. Tickets are $185. I was wrong. $185. And a VIP ticket is only $425. Come on out and support the party. Joni Ernst, the esteemed senator from the corn capital of America in Iowa, she is the speaker. So come on out on June 19th for that. And the last final thought is, look, I've got my issues with Larry Hogan also, but I plan on voting for Larry Hogan. I think everyone should vote for Larry Hogan because it's better to have Larry Hogan and Angela Alsobrooks. And that's it for my final thoughts. Good night, everyone.
Good night.